A guy trying to live out his sports car dream bought a 2014 Porsche Cayman at a salvage auction for the scrap metal price of $7,800. After waiting for nearly a week, Nick finally received the big toy he had been longing for. Now, all he had to do was get it off the trailer, and the Porsche Cayman would be all his. From this angle, you can see the Cayman is severely damaged. It's in full-on, battle-scarred condition. But strangely, the front bumper beam was perfectly preserved. Nick immediately moved the car onto the lift. To get a quick and accurate assessment of the damage, he needed to give the entire car a thorough inspection. The front condenser was heavily damaged, clearly from a violent impact, which meant it was completely unusable. The one remaining wheel was cambered out at a crazy angle, and the wheel on the other side had been completely torn off in the crash. It's hard to imagine the kind of terrifying force it must have endured. Next was the interior. As expected, the airbags had deployed. The rear of the car looked much better, but on its own, it would still be considered a major accident. After a general assessment of the exterior, it was time to check the undercarriage. It was completely covered by underbody panels, so he couldn't see anything useful. Nick had no choice but to remove the panels. He could now clearly see that the subframe was slightly torn and bent. This was not good news for Nick. The exhaust system also had obvious weld marks and was heavily rusted, so it would also need to be replaced. With a basic understanding of the car's condition, it was time to try and start it. Nick removed the few remaining wheel parts to get a better look at the wiring, and sure enough, he found a disconnected wire. Looking at the mess of wiring at the front of the car, Nick felt a headache coming on. Trying to start the engine was going to be a long road. He decided to give up on starting it for now and continue assessing the damage. He hooked up a battery and managed to open the locked trunk, but he didn't find anything useful inside. Giving up on any more discoveries, he started removing all the damaged parts to make a list of what needed to be replaced. After removing the fender, Nick found the strut was also bent from the impact, which meant an even bigger investment. The other fender was, unsurprisingly, in even worse shape. But thankfully, the mainframe seemed to be okay. The fuel filler cap was also perfectly preserved. Next came the side skirts. You can see the damage was extensive across the whole car. Nick's job now was to remove all the damaged exterior panels one by one. After taking off the rear bumper, Nick thought he had removed all the damaged parts. He checked the fluid levels, and after confirming there was enough for a brief startup, he prepared for the first attempt. Nick carefully inserted the key and shifted into neutral, but the moment he turned the key, there was a loud, unusual noise. He couldn't believe it. To figure out the problem, he had to investigate further. The sound was clearly coming from the transmission, which meant it had been damaged in the crash. This realization made Nick instantly regret his purchase. He shouldn't have been so cheap. He had just brought home a massive headache. A replacement transmission would cost around $2,000, which was another huge expense for him. Having confirmed the transmission was the issue, Nick immediately started the removal process. After half an hour of wrestling with it, he and his brother successfully removed the transmission. The broken casing made the severity of the damage obvious. Nick also removed the torn subframe and took the parts with him to find used replacements. After comparing several options, he finally bought a used transmission for $1,500. With the new transmission in hand, Nick immediately started the installation.
Since he had gained experience during the removal, the installation went smoothly without any major issues. He also replaced the torn subframe. Now he could try starting it again. This time, the engine fired right up. With the engine running properly, a huge weight was lifted off his shoulders. Over the next few days, the parts Nick had sourced for the Cayman began to arrive. He secured all the used suspension components for just over $900, a fantastic deal. As soon as they arrived, Nick started removing the damaged suspension and replacing it with the new parts. He also purchased 4 brand new wheels, which cost him $2,800. With the new wheels installed one by one, the Cayman was finally back on the ground. It could even move forward and backward under its own power. After confirming the mechanicals were sound, it was time for the next phase. Nick and his brother decided to remove the car's vinyl wrap to check for any hidden body damage. Peeling off the wrap was an extremely time-consuming and laborious process. It took them the better part of a day to get it all off. During this process, Nick found some issues with the paint, like a severe dent and some extremely thick body filler. Since he was on a tight budget, Nick decided to do the bodywork himself. Buying a new fender would have been too expensive. After sanding the paint off, he could begin the metalwork. With so many areas to repair, it took Nick a lot of effort to fix all the dents. Then he could apply a layer of fiberglass resin. Once it fully cured, he sanded it down, applied a skim coat of filler, and sanded it again. These details show just how much effort Nick was putting into this Porsche Cayman restoration. While he was working on the body, the new front end fenders he ordered finally arrived. Nick explained that these are actually GT4 RS fenders, complete with fender vents. He immediately test-fitted them. After confirming they fit perfectly, he opened another package. Inside was a set of side skirt spoilers, but the surprises didn't end there. There was also a massive carbon fiber rear wing. This was definitely an expensive part. The two brothers immediately started assembling it. The huge wing was a major visual upgrade. After a quick test fit, they went back to the bodywork. The process was more of the same, so we'll skip the details. However, Nick ran into some trouble with the taillight area. He tried cutting and reshaping, but he just couldn't fix the bent metal. Considering the time it would take, he decided to find a cut section from a donor car. While waiting for the part, he didn't stay idle. He primed all the repaired areas. A few days later, he actually found a donor cut. Now he just had to cut out the damaged section of his car and transplant the new panel. The two brothers immediately got to work. One started stripping the paint from the donor cut, while the other began cutting the original panel. After a test fit confirmed the taillight now fit properly, he could weld the new panel in place. With his skilled hands, he quickly joined the two pieces. Then it was the same old routine. Apply fiberglass resin, sand it smooth, and prep for paint. After a coat of primer, the welded section was completely seamless. While the paint was drying, Nick started removing the front-end cooling system. The condenser was severely damaged in the crash and unusable. Since the new radiator hadn't arrived yet, he went back to prepping the body panels. Because he planned to change the car's color, he had to sand the entire body, which was another massive job. After sanding, he masked off the car. Nick chose a vibrant purple for the new color. Unsure if it would suit the Cayman, he decided to do a test spray first to see how it looked when dry. The final result didn't disappoint. He immediately decided to go with the purple.
So he painted the new front fenders, spoilers, and side skirts in the same color. After installing them, the color grew on him more and more. But before the full body respray, he had to replace all the bent suspension components. With their skilled hands, the two brothers quickly swapped in the new parts. Now he could spray the rest of the car. As each panel was painted, the car's style was completely transformed. Who could guess this was once a major wreck? Now, sharp-eyed viewers might have noticed the roof hasn't been painted yet. Don't worry, Nick planned a two-tone look, so he had to wait for the purple to dry before painting the roof. The front and rear bumpers and other trim pieces were also painted. While the roof paint was on order, Nick took out the seatbelts that had arrived a while ago. The new belts were the same color as the new paint. He immediately installed them, along with the door panels and the deployed airbags. The two brothers worked together and got them installed and replaced in no time. The new radiator had also arrived. After installing it, the car's restoration was nearing its end. A few days later, the black paint he ordered for the roof finally arrived. Now he just had to paint the roof and the hood. With the carbon fiber wing installed and the exhaust system replaced, the rebuild of this 2014 Porsche Cayman was finally complete. As is tradition, for the end of the video, let's see how this Cayman performs on the road.